Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this gorgeous gelato shawl. This easy crochet gelato shawl is made with basic crochet stitches and is the epitome of comfort and style, perfect for any occasion. Whether you're strolling through a winter wonderland or attending a sophisticated evening out, this shawl will be your go-to accessory. We will also be adding this gorgeous drop leaf border, a perfect finishing touch to this exquisite shawl. Whether you're an experienced crocheter or a complete beginner, this detailed tutorial guides you through the process step by step. And yes, if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, they're available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. And if English isn't your first language, you can click this gear on the video and scroll through to find your preferred language. To make your gelato shawl, I am using Gelato from Ice Yarns. It is a size 2 weight yarn. It is 100 grams microfiber acrylic, 320 meters for 100 grams. So it is quite thin, but it is also quite delicious. It feels a lot like mercerized cotton. I'll be using a 4mm crochet hook. You will need a needle for sewing in your ends, one stitch marker to keep track of the bottom point of our shawl, and a pair of scissors. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. So we're going to start by making a slip knot, leaving a long enough tail. We are going to work over it and sew it in. So a slip knot, especially if you're using the same yarn I am, this gelato is a bit slippery. So we want to really make sure we sew in all of our tails. So we're going to start with a slip knot and chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there is our chain 6. I'm going to work into that very first chain we made right here on top of that slip knot, just right there. Just pop your hook in and slip stitch to join. I'm holding it open with my finger and thumb so I always know where that center of the ring is, and chain 1. Now into the ring and going over our tail, 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and into the ring, still going over our tail, wrap your yarn and make 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and 4 more double crochets into the center of the ring going over our tail. There's 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to slip stitch into the top of that first stitch to join. We're going to slip stitch right there. So just pop your hook in 2 strands of that V on the top of your hook and slip stitch to join and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turn your work. Looking for more left-handed crochet tutorials? There are more than 160 of my easy left-handed tutorials in this playlist right here. And here is our chain space. That is going to be the tip of our shawl, and we have 4 stitches to work into plus our chain. Wrap your yarn and into that very next stitch right here, we're going to do 2 double crochets. 1 and 2, and into the next stitch we're going to do 3 double crochets. So 3 double crochets into that next stitch. 2 and 3. And now into each of the next 2 stitches, just 1 double crochet into each. 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And now here we are in our chain space. That is our bottom tip of our shawl. So we're going to do 5 double crochets into that space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull your hook up, making a bigger loop so we can take our hook out. We want to check those last 5 double crochets, the one we did into our space, right there. So it looks like the last stitch we did into a stitch is also part of that, but just isolate that one so you have your 5. And we're going to pop a stitch marker into that center stitch. That is just going to be marking the tip of your shawl or the bottom of your shawl. Pop that loop back onto your hook. 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. So that's 1 double crochet into each of those 2 stitches. And now we have 2 double crochets left. We're going to do 3 double crochets into each. So into that next stitch, 3 double crochets, all into the same stitch. There's 1, 2, and 3, and into the last double crochet, which is right here, we're going to do 3 double crochets as well. 1, 2, and 3. So there is the beginning of our shawl. And for our next round, we're going to start windows. You can also sew in this tail if it's in your way. Just thread your needle and work your way in the opposite direction. A sharp tip needle really helps hold in your tails, but just sew it back in. Especially if you're using a slippery yarn like this gelato, you really want to make sure you sew in your tails. Even if you do work over them, they can still wiggle out. It won't undo, but you might have to trim it later on, and we just don't want to do that. So forwards and back, and then we can cut off that tail. To start a window row, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Turn your work, and into that very same stitch, right where our chain is, that very first stitch right there, we are going to do 1 double crochet, chain 1, wrap your yarn, and into the next stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and into the next stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1. So we have 4 of these stitches without any spaces in between. That's how we're going to start in the very beginning of our shawl. So now wrap your yarn, skip a stitch, and into the second, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1 into the second, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and into the second, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and now we are where our stitch marker is. We're going to be working into that center stitch, the very bottom of our shawl. So you can pop that stitch marker out. We're still going to skip 1 and go into that center stitch at the bottom of our shawl, and we're going to do 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet into that same stitch, chain 1. So that is the new bottom tip of our shawl, or the new bottom of our shawl, the center. So pop your stitch marker back in just to mark that stitch. And we're going to do the same thing back up. So our last 4 stitches, including our chain, And now work your way back up along this side, doing your double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, until you have 3 stitches left. We want to do the exact same thing we did on the other side, just in the opposite order. So double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, all the way up until we have our 3 stitches left. So when you get to the end of your shawl, you'll have these stitches left. We're still going to chain 1, skip 1, and work into this stitch here. That's the last one we have skipped before. Now we're going to do our chain 1 and 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, 1 double crochet into our chain. We just want to get 2 strands of that chain on the top of our hook. Chain 1, and we're going to go right back into that same chain and do our last double crochet. So you can just check that both sides of your shawl match. So we have 4 empty windows with spaces, and we have 3 windows without spaces. We just want to make sure we've done the same thing on both sides, just like that. Now we're going to be working into our window spaces. So how we do that row, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and turn your work. Now into the very first stitch, right where our chain is, we're going to do our 2 double crochets into the very same spot as your chain, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2, and into the space we're going to do 3 double crochets right into the space in between those first 2 double crochets. So 3 double crochets into the first space. There's 1, 2, and 3, and into each space along the side we're just going to do 2 double crochets into each. So we start and end different, but down the sides we do the same. So 2 double crochets into each space, working all the way down along the side of your shawl. There's 2. And 2. You can pause the video and get caught up. 2 double crochets into each stitch, working all the way down along the side of your shawl, and I'll meet you when you get to your stitch marker. When you get to your stitch marker, that spot at the bottom tip of your shawl, just pop your stitch marker out, and into that space we are going to do 5 double crochets. So 5 double crochets into the space. There's 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull your hook up. We just want to find that center stitch of our 5 double crochets. So just wiggle in your thumb there to isolate those stitches. Find the center stitch, that 3rd stitch back, the center of those 5, just like that. Now we are ready to keep going. So loop of yarn back on your hook and shrink it down, and 2 double crochets into each space, working all the way back along the row, all along, 2 double crochets into each. So you can pause the video and keep working along, and I'll meet you when you have this last space left. When you have your last space left, we're going to do 3 double crochets into the space. 1, 2, and 3. And now into our chain, we want to go into the 4th chain. So to count your chains, we just look for these V's. So there is 1, 2, 3. Here is number 4. It's usually right where we left off. if you crochet to the side, or how I crochet, it works out to be right at the top there. So I want to go in, make sure you have 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook, and I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the chain. 1, 2, and 3. And that finishes our row working in to the windows. Our next row is just regular double crochets, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So to start, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and turn your work. And right into that very first stitch, we're going to do 3 double crochets into this first stitch right by the chain, and we're going to do 3 double crochets into the next stitch. So that's how we're going to start. That's going to help us work around our neck to give us a nice opening. So 2 double crochets into that first stitch right by the chain, and 3 double crochets into the next stitch. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now you can pause the video and keep working along. We're just going to do 1 double crochet into each stitch, working all the way down along the side of our shawl. 1 double crochet into each stitch, all the way along, and I'll meet you when we get to our stitch marker. When you get to your stitch marker, just pop it out, and into that stitch, we're going to do 5 double crochets. So we're always going to do 5 double crochets for these rows at the tip of our shawl, or the very bottom point of our shawl. It's going to be 5 double crochets. So that is 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make a bigger loop so you can take your hook out. We want to find that center stitch. So 2 on each side. There is your center one. Go ahead and pop your stitch marker in, just so we know where the tip of our shawl is going to be. And now loop of yarn back on your hook, shrink it down, and 1 double crochet into each stitch, working all the way back down along the side of your shawl. 1 double crochet into each stitch, and I will meet you when we get to our last double crochet right over there. So now we have our last stitch and our chain. So into our last stitch, which is this stitch right there, and also into our chain, we're going to do 3 double crochets into each. So 3 double crochets into that last stitch. 1, 2, and 3, and 3 double crochets into that top chain. So an easy way to get into your chain, just slide your hook down into that loop and then push your hook into that space, and that'll wind up with 2 strands of that tiny little stitch on the top of your hook. So wrap your yarn and slide that last chain onto your hook, 3 double crochets into the chain. So we're always going to finish our row by working into the chain. It's super important for a nice straight edge. And by straight, I mean perfectly bent to go around our neck. Isn't that so great? So that finishes our double crochet row. Now repeat that row 2 more times. We have a total of 4 rows of double crochet, and I will meet you back when you have 4 rows done. So do 2 more rows just like we did, and we will keep going together from there. So now we have our 4 rows done. We are ready to do our windows. So to start your windows row, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and turn your work. And remember, you can slow me down just by clicking that gear underneath this video or on this video and speeding me up or slowing me down. So wrap your yarn and into that very same stitch right where our chain is, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and into the very next stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and into the very next stitch, 1 double crochet, and chain 1. So there is our 4 stitches without any skipped stitches. That's how we're going to start and end this row. Now wrap your yarn, skip a stitch, and into the second stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and into the second stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, into the second stitch, 1 double crochet. So you can pause the video and keep working along, doing 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, all the way along the side of your shawl, and I'll meet you when we get to our stitch marker. When you have worked all the way along and reached your stitch marker, you can pop that stitch marker out, just keeping an eye on which stitch it is. So I still am skipping 1 and working in to the bottom tip of our shawl. So into that stitch where the stitch marker was, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet into that same stitch. Chain 1, skip 1 into the second, 1 double crochet, and chain 1. Now go back where that chain 2 was, with the bottom of our shawl, and pop your stitch marker back into that space. Just so we know where it is, we don't have to wonder about it or keep looking for it row after row. Now skip a stitch and 1 double crochet into the second, chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet into the second, and keep doing that all the way along this side of your shawl, and I'll meet you when we have 2 stitches left. Are you enjoying our visit? Consider joining this channel. Your support helps me make more videos. Thank you. When you have your 2 stitches left, that double crochet and the chain, I've already done my chain stitch after my last double crochet here. So I've done my double crochet and chain. So into our stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and into the chain, just kind of roll it towards yourself so you can see that bottom loop. We're going to go in and do 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet, all into that same chain space. So there is our 4 stitches at the end of our shawl, and also the 4 stitches at the beginning of our shawl. To just make sure that they match, if your stitch count has gone off, even when your shawl is bigger, on this row that we just did, this is where we can adjust our stitch count. So you can just count how many boxes you have. So I don't count the tip of the shawl, I just count these boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And I want them to be the same on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So it lines up, it matches, that's great. If yours is off, you can just adjust these boxes just to make sure you have the same number of boxes on each side, and your shawl will get the correct stitch count on the next row. That is if you are kind of new to crochet and you don't want to like frog it back or rip it your stitches. That is a quick tip for just kind of getting it back on track. But of course, you are welcome to also frog it back and get the stitch count correct if that is how you are more comfortable. But this is how you would adjust it if you want like a little quick fix. No one is really going to know. Now we're going to work into these boxes again. It's the same row we did for row 3. So we're going to start with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and turn your work. Now into our chain, into that stitch right where the chain is coming from, we are going to do 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And now into the space, that very first space, 3 double crochets. Because we're always starting with 6, starting and ending with 6 stitches. So there is 2, here is number 3. So there is our start. Now into each space all the way along the side of our shawl, we are going to do 2 double crochets into each. So you can pause the video and keep working along. 2 double crochets into each space all the way along the edge of your blanket, and I will meet you when we get back to our stitch marker. So there is our 2 double crochets into each window all the way along, and into the space with our stitch marker. Just pop that stitch marker out, 5 double crochets into that space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now pull up a bigger loop and isolate those 5 stitches, just right there. Grab your stitch marker and just pop it in to that center stitch, the 3rd double crochet back. Right there, that is the center stitch and the new point or tip of your shawl. Pop your hook back on, 2 double crochets into each space all the way along this side of your shawl. You can pause the video. I'll meet you when you get to this very last space. So I've worked into all of those spaces. We just have this one space left right there. So into that last space, 3 double crochets into the space. 1, 2, and 3. And into the chain, also 3 double crochets. So we want to go into the 4th chain. It's usually right up at the top. We want 1 strand underneath our hook and 2 on top. So there is 1 strand. Now I'm just going to pop my hook into that space, and there's the 2 strands on top. So now 3 double crochets into that chain. 1, 2, and 3. So now pause the video and keep working back along. We're just going to be doing rows of our solid double crochet. So start with a chain 4 and 2 double crochets into the first stitch, 3 double crochets into the stitch after that, and 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way along until you reach the point of our shawl down here. 5 double crochets into the point of our shawl. Swap your stitch marker up to the new row. 1 double crochet into each stitch all along this side until you have your chain and last double crochet. Just those 2 stitches left. 3 double crochets into your stitch and 3 double crochets into your very last chain. So pause the video and keep working along. You want to do that 5 times for a total of 6 rows. So we've done 1 row. We need to do 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So pause the video and I'll meet you when you have done 5 more rows for a total of 6. When you have completed your 6 rows of double crochet, we are ready to start a window row, and we're going to be doing our windows a little bit different from now on. So we're going to start with the same chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn your work into that very first stitch right by our chain. We're going to do 1 double crochet. Chain 1, and now we're going to go straight in to the skip 1 and 1 double crochet, chain 1 into the second stitch. So that's how we're going to begin our window rows. So chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet into the second, chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet into the second, all the way down along the edge of your shawl. So you can pause the video and I'll meet you when you get to the bottom or the center of your shawl. When you get to that center stitch at the bottom of your shawl or the tip of your shawl, just pop your stitch marker out. We're going to work right into that stitch with our double crochet and chain 2. 1 and 2, and 1 more double crochet into that same stitch. So that's the same as we always have been doing. Now we're just going to do our chain 1, skip 1, and work all the way down this side of our shawl. So you can pause the video, just keep working along, and I will meet you when we get into our very last space down here into the chain. When you get to the end of the row, we have 1 stitch left. We're going to skip that and work right into our chain. So right into the top of that chain, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet into the same chain. Just like that. And that is how we're going to do our windows for the rest of our shawl. Now to work into our windows for the rest of our shawl, this will be the repeat for working into the windows. Start with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and turn your work. Into that very first chain, 1 double crochet, and into the space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Now into each space all the way along, 2 double crochets into each space. 1 and 2, and 2 double crochets into each space all the way along the side of your shawl. Just like that. So now you can pause the video and keep working along. 2 double crochets into each window all the way along the side of your shawl. And I will meet you when we get into that bottom space at the bottom of our shawl. Into that space at the center of our shawl, 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. So there is our 5 stitches. You can go ahead and pop a stitch marker in if that helps you. Just like that. Now you can pause the video and keep working along. 2 double crochets into each space all the way along this side, and I'll meet you when we have that one last space left. When you get all the way around and you have your 1 space left, we're just going to go into that space and make our 2 double crochets right into that last space. 1 and 2, and into our chain, we're also going to do 2 double crochets into the top of that chain. So just wiggle your hook in. You want 2 strands on the top of your hook, and 2 double crochets to finish the row. 1 and 2. So that's how we're going to be working into our windows for the rest of this pattern. And now the last repeat is just a regular row of double crochet. So I'm going to show you how to start and finish that. It's going to be the very same in the bottom of our shawl or the center of our shawl, just 5 double crochets. So this is how you begin a row of double crochet. We're going to start with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turn your work, and into that very first stitch, 1 double crochet, and now into each stitch all the way along, 1 double crochet into each. So super easy, super simple, a great repeat for just therapeutic, relaxing crochet. So you can pause the video, keep working along. Oops, got a big loop of yarn here. 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way along. When you get to the center of your shawl, that's 5 double crochets, just like usual, and 1 double crochet into each stitch all along the side, and I'll meet you when we get back to the end of this row. When you have worked all the way around and you have your 1 space left, we're going to work into that last stitch with our double crochet. And we're going to finish the row with 2 double crochets into the chain. Just pop your hook in, 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook, and 2 double crochets to finish the row. 1 and 2. So now pause the video and keep working along, repeating this last row we did, our double crochet row, 6 more times, and then do windows, work into your windows, and do 1 row of double crochets. So what we're going to be doing, or what I'm doing for mine, you can insert windows whenever you feel like it for your shawl. You can make it your own. For me, I'm going to do a repeat of 2, 4, 6, and 8. So when I'm done my next 6, that'll be a total of 8 rows. And then I'm going to do windows, and then 2 rows of double crochets, windows, 4 rows of double crochets, windows, 6 rows of double crochets, windows, and 8 rows of double crochets, and then windows. So you can repeat that pattern until your shawl is the size you want it to be, keeping in mind your border will add about 1.5 inches. Now here is a little tip. If you get to the center point of your shawl and you are going to be working in to the 2nd stitch and not the 3rd, just go ahead and work into that 2nd stitch. With your double crochet and chain 1. And now still go in to that center stitch with your double crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, and 1 more double crochet into that same center stitch. Just like that. And then whatever you did before the point of your shawl, you want to do after. So we went in to the stitch right before the center stitch, so we want to go in to the stitch right after. So we went into this stitch, we want to go in to that stitch. We want to do like a mirror. So I've done my chain 1, so into that very next stitch, 1 double crochet and chain 1. And now we're back to skipping a stitch and doing everything like usual. So just depending on where you end up at the tip of your shawl, just go ahead and mirror what you do before and after. And don't worry if it looks exactly the same as the row before. There's 2 different ways of doing it, and both are fine. And now keep going, making your shawl as big as you want it to be, and we want to end on a windows row. To start your border, just finish your windows row like we normally have been, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3, and turn your work. Now we're going to be working in to the next double crochet, which is right here. So just the top of that stitch right there is where we're going to be working into, just to start. So wrap your yarn and into that next stitch, 1 double crochet and chain 2. 1 and 2. Wrap your yarn and into this space, we're going to be working right around that post. We're going to do 6 double crochets into this space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now into the next stitch, the top of that next stitch, 1 single crochet. So that is how we're going to start our border. And now I'm going to show you how to do it for the rest of the way. So the repeat for the rest of the border. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the space, 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, and into that space right around that double crochet we just made, 6 double crochets into the space we just made. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now into the next stitch, 1 single crochet. Just like that. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Into the space, 1 double crochet. Chain 2, 1 and 2. And into the space, we're going to work around that double crochet we just made. So we're turning that into our new space. 6 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now into the next stitch, 1 single crochet to pin it down. So that is the repeat for the rest of our shawl. Don't worry if they look a little funny. They will all kind of stretch out and behave themselves as our border grows. So I can pause the video and keep working along. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Wrap your yarn, double crochet into the space. Chain 2 and 6 double crochets around that stitch we just made into that new space we just made. 6 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 1 single crochet to finish into the stitch. So pause the video and keep working along, doing that same combination of stitches into each stitch and space all the way along the edge of your shawl, and I will meet you when you get to the center point. When you get to the center tip of your shawl, we're just going to do the same thing right into it. So just 1 of these cute little petals. So your chain 3, 1 double crochet into the space, chain 2, and into that space we just made 6 double crochets. So just the same as we did for the rest of our shawl. Nothing different into that center space or that center tip of our shawl. And 6. So just treat it like a regular space and keep going along the rest of your shawl. I will meet you when we get very, very close to the end right over here. When you reach the end of your row, you will have your chain and your last double crochet empty. That is what we want. So we did our chain 3 and we're just going to work into the stitch. So we're not working into the spaces anymore. So into that last real double crochet that we made, 1 double crochet to start our border, and chain 2. We're just going to do our regular little shell. So 6 double crochets into that space we just made. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now we're going to single crochet into our chain. So into our chain, one single crochet, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. So that is what the end of our shawl will look like, or the end of our row. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough strand to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Now go ahead and sew in your tails and you're finished. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I am waiting for you in that video right there, and stay hooked.